Hey y'all, my name is Rebecca and welcome to my channel. I want to show you a guilt-free, keto-friendly green bean casserole that you can serve for Thanksgiving. It seems like green bean casserole is a staple on the Thanksgiving table, and this recipe of mine is a guilt-free way to indulge and not have the guilt that goes along with it. So come cook with me. I'm going to put about a quarter of an onion into my electric chopper. The amount of onion is entirely up to you. I wanted the flavor of the fried onions that generally go on top of the casserole without an overpowering onion taste, so I only used a quarter of an onion for this. I'm going to use a half of a can of sliced mushrooms. I'm going to put that into my electric chopper as well. You do not have to thinly chop them, but there are certain members of my family who do not like the consistency of mushrooms. So chopping them up very fine works very well. You can use the entire can if you really like the flavor. But once again, I was just trying to evoke the gentle flavor of a cream of mushroom soup without an overwhelming mushroom taste. I'm going to use 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, and then I'm going to pour that into my saucepan. I'm going to combine my heavy whipping cream and my mushrooms and onions into the saucepan, and then I'm going to turn it on a very low heat. On my stove, I turned it to 4, but everybody's stovetop cooks a little bit differently. So keeping that in mind, just put it on a very low heat setting. To my vegetables and my heavy whipping cream, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of minced garlic. I use garlic because it keeps better at my house than just fresh garlic, and then a dash of salt, pepper, and Italian seasonings. I'm using a whisk to make sure that everything is combined very well at this point, and then I'm going to add in an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. When you simmer the cream cheese and the heavy whipping cream together, you're going to have the consistency of the cream of mushroom soup. You could stop right here and call this recipe a cream of mushroom soup keto-friendly recipe, and it is delicious, especially if you are a fan of cream of mushroom soup straight out of the can just to eat. This would be the homemade version of that is far healthier for you. But that is just going to be the base for my casserole. While that is simmering on low, I'm going to take a bag of pork rinds. I get mine at the Dollar Tree. Seems to be the best value for my buck, but you can get them also at Aldi for a reasonable price and the Walmart. The pork rinds are very low in carbohydrates. I'm going to add that to a gallon size bag. I'm only going to use a half a bag of my pork rinds, but I'm going to add that to my gallon size bag. I stopped over at the stove, stirred up my cream cheese and my heavy whipping cream mixture. I reduced the heat down to 2, and I'm going to let that sit while I start the toppings. I'm talking to my mom here, so it looks really, really weird. She was asking me a question. I'm going to make sure all of the air is out of my gallon size Ziploc bag and kind of smush it with my hands at first, kind of work it up a little bit. And then I'm going to take a rolling pin and just go over the top of it and make sure it's very finely crushed up. Just like the regular green bean casserole, you could leave this topping mixture in the bag. Prepare your casserole ahead of time if you like to do your Thanksgiving dinners that way, and put that in the fridge, and then just save your topping to put on later. It would be just fine to prepare ahead then you have a lot less fuss and mess on the day. You are trying to get everything in the oven at the same time or prepare everything in a 2 to 3 hour time period. I'm going to use some Parmesan cheese. This is the shredded Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to put about 1/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese into my bag. And then I'm going to use some onion powder, approximately a tablespoon. And I did not measure this, but that is about what I put into the bag. And then I'm just going to shake that up. The onion powder and the Parmesan cheese really are just everybody's taste. It's a taste preference. But the onion powder is enough to just kind of coat the little pork rind crumbles, and they give a similar taste and texture to the French fried onions that you generally put on the top of a green bean casserole. Once again, without all of the added carbohydrates. Now, this is the texture of my cream of mushroom soup that is absolutely divine. It looks just like the cream of mushroom soup that you generally take straight out of the can. I'm going to add in a cup of shredded mozzarella cheese and a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese to my soup mixture, and then it's going to become a little bit more cheesy, a little bit stringy, I want to say, because of the mozzarella cheese, but it's going to thicken up even more. Once the cheese is melted, then I'm going to add a can of drained green beans. You can use the French style green beans or the cut green beans, whatever you prefer. And then I'm just going to whisk in my green beans. And now you're going to see the stringy texture that I was talking about on the end of my whisk. The mozzarella does give it a little bit more texture. I'm going to take a baking pan. This is 9 by 11, and I'm going to spray it with some cooking spray and then start spooning in my casserole ingredients. And then I'm going to make sure that it is just evenly dispersed throughout the pan. You also don't have to use cooking spray, but I really like to, especially if I'm going to prepare something ahead of time so that I really don't have anything sticking to my pan. That's just a personal preference, but I'm going to make sure everything is very even and spread out into my baking dish. Then I'm going to start spreading out my pork rind topping. I'm just going to pour that over the top and then kind of with the back of a spoon, gently even the topping out until it covers the entire expanse of my casserole. The topping is a little bit more delicate than what the traditional French fried green beans would be, so I'm doing it very gently and just kind of using the back of the spoon and the side of the spoon to spread it out so it doesn't seep down into the body of my casserole. I'm going to melt a stick of butter in the microwave, and while my butter is melting, I'm going to preheat my oven to 375. Once my butter has melted, then I'm going to kind of pour that over the top of the casserole. It doesn't have to saturate the top. It just needs to kind of hit the highlights, so to speak, and make sure that it is kind of even, but you do want some of the crispies to not be covered in butter either. And then I'm going to pop this into the oven. I left mine in the oven for about 30 minutes at 375. However, I know every oven temperature is different and not everything is going to be exactly the same. So just keep an eye on it until the top is nice and brown and you have a really gorgeous topping. This is delicious. My family says that this is better than the regular green bean casserole that I used to make, which is a very high compliment. You have all the flavor, none of the guilt, and it is going to bring green bean casserole reinvented to your table in a delightful way. So as I have been on my weight loss journey, I have been in the kitchen a lot, deciding recipes, trying to find good savory things to eat so that I do not feel like I'm depriving myself all the while losing weight. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so that you know when I've uploaded my next video. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching Crafts, Laughs, and Chaos, and y'all have a very happy Thanksgiving.